Of the many talented people that worked with Gerry Anderson on shows like Thunderbirds, one name that made a large contribution was the writer and director Alan Pattillo. His association with the AP Films team started during Four Feather Falls as a director, and continued through the likes of Fireball XL5 and Stingray, until he was eventually entrusted with the sizable task of directing Trapped in the Sky, the pilot episode to Thunderbirds.
We have our first emergency call, Father.
Naturally, this came with its challenges.
We had to shoot various shots which became library shots which we used over and over. Of Scott and all the other chaps of the team going into the various craft. They took a long time to shoot. Trying to make a puppet swivel round and fall down backwards down a chute was very time consuming. We would shoot about 4 shots in a day of that stuff because the puppeteers had to shoot one bit of the action, then your camera would cut, and then the puppeteers would come down and wire up the character in a different way, suitable for the next continued bit of action. It was very complicated, but fortunately, once we got it in the can, we'd got it.
Alan talks about filming the launch sequence of Thunderbird 1 and references Scott Tracy here. But we think he means Virgil in the launch sequence for Thunderbird 2.
We'd shot Scott in his everyday clothes, going into his craft. And Derek Meddings shot him too as a little small Scott Tracy going into his craft. And then we'd shot at a much earlier stage in the production, Scott sitting in his uniform in the craft. And suddenly one of the assistants said, "He's got the wrong clothes on. He's changed his clothes." So we thought, no one had noticed this. None of us had noticed this. So at the last minute, another last-minute shot, we had to shoot a shot of a little trapdoor on the floor of his cabin opening up and a little coat hanger coming up with his uniform there. The sequences of showing Virgil, for instance, going into his craft, they took forever. I mean, we'd shoot maybe, if we were lucky, 4 shots a day because the shooting of them, the action was so complicated. We had to use slow, fast turnover camera and so on. It was very time consuming, but at least you were assured that once we'd got it for good, and we'd use it successfully in other episodes. When we showed these characters in their craft, or Lady Penelope in her Rolls Royce, we relied greatly to create a sense of movement on what we called a roller backing, which was a screen which went round and round and round behind the foreground characters to create the impression of movement. And with these rollers, as we call them, were long enough so that the repetition of the same tree and the same mountain, the same house would not be apparent. We relied greatly on those because movement was crucial in Gerry Anderson's days. Aircraft, motor cars, spacecraft, submarines, anything, they were all movement was extremely important. And we also used those roller effects to create an impression of someone on foot, say skiing or coming in a vehicle coming towards the camera. The roller movement created an impression that the craft was in motion, but in fact, of course, they were quite static.
We're not going to make it. We're running out of runway.
We all had our favourite Thunderbirds characters, of course. Lady Penelope and Parker made a marvellous team, of course. But some of the lads as well, Scott Tracy, who was based on Sean Connery, as everybody knows, and Alan Tracy. I can't remember who he was based on, but I liked them because they photographed well. It wasn't necessarily the characterization that appealed to one. It was the fact that they photographed well, that they acted well, that they worked in front of a film camera. When we were making it, we knew we were onto something quite ambitious and amusing and entertaining. I don't think we quite realised it'd be such a cult as it developed into. Speaking personally, I felt it went as far as we would ever go in that form of art, if it is art, or entertainment. I never felt that we could go better than that, with the limitations of puppet action intercut with special effects action. We knew that the level, the sophistication was the best we'd ever done so far, and the story was very exciting. Of course, we had to do some retakes and make it look good for ATV.
Boys, I think we're in business.
There's a very interesting scene at the end of the episode where the brothers say, well, that's that. We know we're in business. We know that International Rescue is business. And I think that was signalled the success of the show itself. We knew that it was going to be pretty successful, but we didn't expect, of course, it was going to be such a great cult as it turned out to be.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, let us know your favourite Thunderbirds moments, and we'll see you next week.